like they're not doing anything. She's standing in the chair. That's the
Ryan
move.
That's
yeah.
the mantis. Yeah. That's what I call that. My wife calls it the mantis. I do that. You guys should see me at the crib when F-bombs are allowed to fly. Like back in the day on this network, like when Costos and Joe O hosted a show, it was a whole nother world.
Oh,
Nick,
man, that'd be
Nick
so
would drop
great.
like 180 F-bombs.
That sounds amazing.
It was that. Sometimes I miss those days. Like if we have to be in here live sweating this game, T should just be able to drop some F-bombs.
Yeah.
When the Cubs ultimately go down 5-0 in the fourth, and I'm calling for all the prospects to come up from Iowa, I should be able to use some
They're letting them
F-bombs.
play, guys. They're letting them play.
That's what we want, though, right?
Yes, that is.
Unlike those NBA officials and their mothers and grandmothers. You know, I got to say one thing.
Okay.
Even if you're an NBA official, as soon as someone says F your grandma, too, you got to stand on business, man.
Yeah.
Even if you got to lose. Okay, you're like, your mom, that's everybody's mom gets called out. When he says your granny, too, you got to stand on business, in my opinion. Nobody's saying F my grandma, all right? I'll lose my job over that. There's a line that you just can't
Should
cross.
we test him? Should we test him and see, Trista?
No, his grandma has passed away, and that's my
Yeah,
mom. And
exactly.
So why would we not do that?
Damn it, here comes UConn.
This is what UConn does. All right. Give UConn a little bit of time here. They'll be fine. I'm not concerned about it.
I want them to win 80-70.
There you go, boys. I think you're more athletic than them. I'm not sure.
You know, the most bet teams in terms of individual tickets at BetMGM for these Sweet 16 games, it's North Carolina at -4.5, UConn at -11.5, and then Clemson +7.5. Those are the top three.
Yeah. Houston's obviously the best defensive team in the country. They're really physical. How do you make the case for Duke to pull off the minor upset? They're only 3.5-point underdogs, but the way people are talking, it seems like a lot bigger of a spread. How do you think Duke pulls off that upset if they do?
Well, I think the formula you saw is against James Madison. The guards need to make shots, and Filipowski needs to stay out of foul trouble. And if they can do that, I think they can pull this off because they're incredibly athletic. And, you know, the one thing that Duke has problems with is size. And if you've got a dominant inside presence who can defend the rim and also score at close range, they don't have a whole lot of answers because Filipowski's playing the 5 and he's really a 4. And other than that, they really don't have anything. But Houston doesn't have that. Houston's a guard-oriented team just like them. And I think that with the three of them, with Roach, Proctor, and McCain, that will offset the two, Cryer and Sheed. And you know, and like I said, if Filipowski can stay out of foul trouble, they got a puncher's chance, especially if they can get out in transition.
Is it concerning and all in that matchup, Brett? The fact that Houston has just put up a ton of points. I know they played Longwood first and put up 86 on them, but Texas A&M then they gave up 95, but they put up 100. Game went to overtime. Like Houston hasn't really been a team that we look at as an offensive juggernaut consistently, but we know what they can do defensively. If they can keep that up, I mean, is that something that should be a major concern for Duke, just trying to keep up with them that way?
Well, yes, but the thing about it is, though, that's playing into Duke's strength, though. To get up and down the court, that's what Duke wants to do. You know, they want to get into transition, they want to get easy buckets, and so you know, if it is that kind of game, yeah, it definitely is a good thing for Houston. But I think Duke's got more offensive weapons, and if it comes down to a shootout, they can outscore Houston. I think Houston
that's
wants
a good
to,
point.
I think Houston will want to slow it down a little bit and play a little bit more of a grinding game.
Why do you think Duke slid all the way down to the 4 seed? Is it all those, commentary on them being soft?
Well, you know what? The two games against Carolina, it sure looked like that. But like I said, look at the teams that have given them trouble. They lost twice to Carolina. Armando Bacot. They lost to NC State in the ACC tournament. DJ Burns. They had real problems with Clemson. They only, won in Cameron because they got a really soft foul call with 1.8 seconds to go. PJ Hall and Ian Shiflin. Those are the teams that give them the hardest time. And yeah, it comes down to a little bit of toughness as well. But I just don't think that they can defend, and I don't think that their guards can get to the rim the way they like to when there's a shot blocker in there.
Quite a bit. I think you're going to see Steph still there. I think you're going to see Draymond still there, and I think everybody else is in play. I think you're going to see like guys like Pajemski and Jackson Davis. Those guys are going to be there unless they're needed to be in some kind of monster huge trade. But I think the Warriors are really going to look at it and say, all right, if we want to maximize whatever it is we have left with Steph, 2, 3, 4 years of really good play, we've got to make changes. And one of the things that we see sometimes, and it's really tough because don't get me wrong, I don't want to see Klay Thompson play anywhere else. I want to see him retire a Warrior. But, these teams, if you get too sentimental with it, it doesn't always go well. And they had that run 2 years ago where they won the title. They kind of came back from all the down years and won the title. And I feel like if you try to refine that magic with all the same guys, you're going to be right back in the same spot where you're in the play-in tournament. And that's going to be a really difficult path for you moving forward. So I think we're going to see major changes come. And ownership has hinted at it too, because they basically said, hey, we can't be this expensive for this kind of team. We've got to start getting things in control, not necessarily just because of how much we're paying, but because of how limiting it is under the new rules with how we build the roster.
I got to ask you this question because I'm watching the Cubs. Big fan. 1-0 lead right now. What do you think about the NL Central? I know a lot of people do like the Reds. I don't know, the pitching staff, I don't love it for St. Louis. I do think that Arenado and Goldschmidt probably have big years if they're able to stay healthy. What would you do in the NL Central, if anything? Which team do you like?
I guess I'm with the majority here because I'm with the Reds too. I really like what they've done. They've supported their good young players by bringing in a guy like Frankie Montas to support that rotation. If Graham Ashcraft and Hunter Green and Nick Lodolo if those guys can all take the next step in their development, I think that's the best starting rotation in the division. Then they've got Ellie De La Cruz and Matt McClain and all those other good young players. Like, I'm sad that Joey Votto, I'm happy Joey Votto is a Blue Jay now, but I'm sad that he's not there. I think the Reds are on the uptick. I like them over their win total, which was about 81.5, I think. And at 3-1 to win the division, I think that's the best value on the board.
I want to go back to the AL East with you. As a Blue Jays fan, there's also another team in that division that I feel like flies under the radar but tends to end up having some pretty solid expectations at least, and that's the Rays. I feel like just every single offseason, man, like nobody talks about them. It's another one here. I mean, listen, I'm guilty of it. I'm sitting here talking Yankees and O's. They're the two co-favorites right now to win the AL East, but could this also be a situation where, like, people like me that sit here and talk, because I love the Orioles. I love what they've built, even though I'm a Nationals fan. People think they're rivals. I'm like, they're not. Like, there hasn't been any meaningful games between them. But, like, the Rays just feel like a team that even when we don't expect them or even think about them, they're just out of people's heads. They just find a way to always be in the playoff hunt when it's all said and done. Maybe not division, but are the Rays at least a team we should look at as a playoff team, a very reasonable playoff team?
100%. You said it. They just exceed expectations every single year. One of the first things I do when the win totals come out in January is find the Rays win total, and I go and bet the over. And that's what I did this year, 84.5. It's just criminal for this team that has been the most well-coached. They seem to have reclamation project after reclamation project when it comes to the starting pitching. They find guys on the trash heap, bring them over. Zach Eflin was one last year. And they obviously develop young, good starting pitching. That's going to be the same. Obviously, they're dealing with a lot of injuries this year that they weren't expecting, but the lineup is still underrated. Brandon Lau, if he can bounce back this year, that'd be great. Yandy Diaz is the hits king right now, and Randy Arozarena is one of the most electric players in baseball. They're overlooked because they play in that terrible, terrible stadium, and nobody goes to their games, despite the fact they've been one of the most successful teams in baseball for the last, I don't know, feels like almost half a decade now.
Let's go.